Hello. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Hall H of Penguin Random House Virtual Con, and welcome to the Great Fantasy Debate preview party. So the Great Fantasy Debate is a comedy debate show about the fantasy genre that is going to be starting on Facebook Watch on May 5th. And it's going to have a bunch of your favorite authors from fantasy, and a few of them are going to be joining us tonight, as well as a few other people from the show. I'm Pat Stango. I'm going to be hosting tonight. I am the director of the video team for Penguin Random House, and I'm an executive producer on the Great Fantasy Debate. So we have an awesome show tonight. We've got authors Pierce Brown and Naomi Novik, as well as Victor Varnado and Erin Chan, who worked on our show. So before we start the show tonight, before we start the panel, just a few things to let everyone in the audience know. So as a reminder, please keep your audio and video muted throughout the session. Though we will be taking questions from you that we're going to ask the authors at the end of the show. So if you have questions and comments for the authors that you want to ask them, leave that in either the chat session if you're watching here on Zoom, or if you are someone watching on Facebook Live on the Penguin Random House Facebook page, you could just leave questions for the authors in the comments and we'll collect those and have a little Q&A session at the end of the panel. So yeah, if you'd like to submit questions for our speakers, you could do that, or you could email one of our event producers, John. His email address is posted in the Zoom chat. The other note here before we start is for the best viewing experience on a computer, we suggest finding the gallery view button in the upper right of your Zoom window. So once you're in the gallery view, that'll let you see all of the speakers all at the same time. Once you're in the gallery view, if you hover over any of the black tiles with the name on it, you should see a blue ellipsis. Click on this, find hide non-video participants, and this will clear up your screen so that you only see me right now, and you'll only see the people who are performing on the panel tonight. You won't see everyone who's watching the show. And if you're on a mobile device, you could swipe left to access gallery view. You could hide non-video participants by tapping more, going into your meetings, settings, and doing this is definitely helpful because then you'll only see the speakers once they come on to the stage. All right, and speaking of that, let's get the show started. Let's start bringing up our guests for tonight. So the first person that I want to bring up tonight is Victor Varnado. Victor is a comedian who's performed on Conan, Jimmy Kimmel. He's also a TV producer, produced on such shows as Love and Hip Hop on VH1, The Awkward Comedy Show, starring Eric Andre for Comedy Central. He directed that, Realm of Lark for Nerdist, and most importantly, he's the director and co-executive producer of our show, The Great Fantasy Debate. So let's bring up Victor Varnado onto the stage.
Yay!
Yeah, what's up, buddy?
Man, I sound great by how you describe me.
Yeah, man, you're a big deal. Thanks for joining us tonight.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I like your Stormtrooper in the background. Just
Stormtrooper, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. You hired the right guy is what I'm saying.
So Victor, little warm-up question. You're a director.
Yep.
If you could direct any fantasy character, who would it be? You could have them on set. Who do you think would be the easiest fantasy character to direct?
Well, okay, so this question just veered off from what I thought it was.
No, it's not like a property.
If I could direct any fantasy movie, but you're like, if the character were real. And then who would I want to be on set? That's very funny because the fantasy movie would be Pumpkinhead, but having Pumpkinhead on the set in real life would be really a problem.
Right.
Because I just want to do a new Pumpkinhead movie. But if I could direct any fantasy character, I guess I would have to say it would be somebody like, Princess Ariel from the Aladdin franchise.
Okay.
Wait, is her name Ariel? No, Jasmine.
No, Ariel is Little Mermaid.
Yeah, Princess Jasmine from the Aladdin franchise. Exactly.
Okay.
I would have to direct her because she's headstrong and smart, but still knows like when to settle down and follow the rules when it's time. So
spoken like a true director. In the end,
exactly.
You want someone to follow the rules.
I want someone to do what I need to be done at the time that I need it to be done. I mean, is that so wrong?
All right. So coming up next onto our stage is the head writer of our show, The Great Fantasy Debate. She has written on other TV shows such as Cash Cab. She's also the head writer of an upcoming Disney Plus game show called The Big Fib. But again, most importantly, she's the head writer of The Great Fantasy Debate. Erin Foley Chan, will you please come on to our stage tonight? Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Erin, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is very exciting.
So, Erin, you were the head writer of our show. So, like I asked Victor what fantasy character he'd want to direct, if you could have any fantasy character from the history of fantasy to be in a writer's room with you, who would that be?
Now, it's an interesting question because there are a number of factors to consider when you think about who you want in a writer's room. You want people with great ideas, but you're also, when you're in a writer's room for 8-10 hours with someone, so they have to be a solid hang as well.
Right.
And I was thinking, maybe I'm just thinking about books I've read more recently, but I was thinking Luna Lovegood from Harry Potter. She is somebody who is a really great at out-of-the-box thinking. Mm-hmm. She's going to pull in something that no one else in the room would have thought of. And she seems pretty sweet, pretty easy to get along with. She's someone, if you're in a room and you're not allowed to even leave for lunch, she's going to be somebody that you're not going to mind spending more time with her than your family.
Nice. I also like how you already know you're not letting the staff leave for lunch.
Oh, no. Those are productive hours.
Here's a picture from the set of Erin and I yelling at each other.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait, that's not the one. Sorry. Here's the one where we were pretending to yell at each other. I'm sorry. I tried to make it look like it was real at first, but I kind of blew it by showing the picture where we were smiling. So, yeah, but okay.
I smile when I cry. That's what they call smizing, right? That's when you smile and you're crying hysterically.
I thought that's when your eyes are bright. That's what smizing is.
I've been doing it wrong.
Yeah, I guess you're not going to be on the top model if you don't know how to smize.
Well, hopefully we could make everyone smize tonight. But
we're all going to smize tonight, guys.
So coming up next, so now this is, of course, The Great Fantasy Debate is a show in which comedians and authors team up and compete against each other in debates about the greatest arguments in fantasy. So we have several authors who are on our show, and two of them are going to be on our panel tonight. So the first one coming up is Pierce Brown. He's the best-selling author of the Red Rising and Iron Gold series, and Pierce is joining us all the way from Los Angeles, California. Welcome, Pierce.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Good to see you. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, my pleasure. Hi, guys. Nice to see you. Thanks for taking some time.
So there are a lot of fans out here who are just going totally crazy.
Well, I was practicing my smizing. I'm not sure I'm at y'all's level yet, but I'm working on it.
So, Pierce, your fans call themselves howlers.
Do they?
On Couch with Zero. I was going to back. Oh my God.
I'm just provoking them. Don't worry about me.
Pierce, are you sick and tired of people howling at you on the street, or does it never get old?
Well, it's only happened on the street a couple times, usually around cons, but I was signing at my last con, and there's these people making this ungodly racket. I'm like, who are those assholes? And then they come over, and there's like 19 cosplayers that are dressed out in institute outfits. So I was like, all right, my people could be assholes. So all of a sudden I have more tolerance for loud noises. It's great. It's amazing how that works.
Well, if you're a fan of Pierce in the chat room, just start howling. Text some howls and just start howling in your house, because it doesn't matter. Who cares?
Well, the weird thing about it is in Colorado, they're doing howling to show appreciation for healthcare workers. And so my parents are outside howling and like saying that the state's been converted. Any Colorado people are not. It's just going on in the entire state. I love it.
So you're like, it's really for me.
I'm claiming the state. I mean, that's how it works, right? Yeah.
And all right, so we're going to bring up our next awesome author who's joining us tonight. So Naomi Novik is the Nebula Award-winning author of the Temeraire series and the novels Uprooted and Spinning Silver. Everyone, give it up for Naomi Novik. Just go nuts in the chat room. There
Hello,
she
everyone.
is.
All right.
Hey,
What's
Naomi.
up?
I brought a sign because my voice is going, except that's backwards, isn't it?
No, we can see it.
That's
It is?
perfect.
Okay, good. So if my voice actually goes out, I will be like desperately, frantically writing.
Yes. Well, luckily, one of the segments tonight is drawing based. So
excellent. I am prepared. I am armed and ready. Also, before you ask, the answer is Megatron. I have no idea what your question was going to be, but I decided on my character beforehand.
Well, Naomi, my question was, so this is a debate show that we all filmed, and that's coming out on May 5th on Facebook. So you, of course, have written about many dragons in your books. Do you think that dragons themselves, if they were in a debate, would have an unfair advantage?
Well, no, they'd have a very fair advantage.
The fair advantage being that you don't want to ever argue with a dragon?
Yeah, don't argue with dragons. Why is that unfair? I feel like that's just eminent.
You know, you make a good point. They're born that
good
way,
advice.
and
good advice. Don't argue.
Yeah.
With dragons. Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to show this to the people in the chat room. I'm totally showing it off. Look at my black coat. Some people are like, "Oh, is that Warhammer?" Yeah.
Naomi, giving the people what they want, as always.
Yeah.
So our show that we all did together, which comes out on May 5th, is about fantasy. So I want to ask each of you the simple question of what to you makes fantasy great? Why do you love fantasy? And is there a first piece of fantasy pop culture, a book or a movie that got you to fall in love with the genre in the first place? So we can start with Victor. What makes great fantasy great, and what was the fantasy that really pulled you into being a fan of the genre?
I think that what makes fantasy great for me is when I want to participate. Like if it's a world where I'm like, oh my God, I wish I was there. I want to do X, Y, Z. I'd fix this. Or I'd help them. Or I'd be the best warrior. Or like if it's a world that makes me want to feel, like makes me feel that way, that's what great fantasy is. And the thing that started me off was in high school. Honestly, it was actually just Greek mythology because I was a huge fan of Greek mythology. And then I started reading other kinds of mythology. And then I started reading a lot of fantasy. I think it was the Xanth novels by Pierce Anthony. Mm-hmm. Do you know what the Xanth novels are? Spell for Chameleon. What? Really?
Oh, no,
you know what it is.
Okay. Familiar.
It's just like I felt like everybody was like, "What are you from Mars?"
We're letting you have the floor, man. Yeah. Victor, you're on your own, bro.
Yeah,
we want to let you do your rant.
What a nerd!
Spell for Chameleon, I think, is the first big novel I remember reading and being like, "I love this."
So Pierce, what do you think makes great fantasy, and what got you into it?
I mean, I don't think there's a rule for it per se. There's two different tacks I kind of take when I look at fantasy. One is like the creation of modern myth. So it's the ability to tap into these strands that I guess run through a people and then weave it together and make it feel like it's been there the entire time. And so, you know, with some of my favorite stuff is like the Iliad, right? Mm-hmm. And so I look at things that summon the same sort of cultural zeitgeist in me, if that makes sense. So I guess the first one that really caught me was Lord of the Rings. But then after that, that's a predictable answer, right? I'd say Indian in the Cupboard.
Okay.
I know it's you know, perhaps not the biggest one, but it lit my brain up when I was a kid because I was able to relate to it, you know, as a kid. It's kind of like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids too, which is a fantasy thing. But it's nostalgic, but at the same time exploring these same, you know, highfalutin ideas as like H.G. Wells did in The Time Machine. And so I sometimes love that when it's a little bit of nostalgia and then a bit of a alteration of the norm, either through, you know, science fiction or fantasy. And then how do people deal with that? So I think it's those cultural myths that I look for. An Indian in the cupboard for me as a kid, if your toys were alive, they'd be all end all cool things.
Uh-huh. Do you have any collectibles in your room that you are still waiting for to come alive?
Maybe, yeah. I might be a big Warhammer collector. It's there's really fun painting small objects, and then you get to look at your army and your legion you've created, and you like go forth and conquer my minions. So I think, yeah, I've got a couple collections. I also have a Furby still.
And someday it will talk to you, Pierce.
Yeah, someday. Well, the thing is, my Furby, I'm a bad parent because my Furby is saying, feed me, feed me, feed me. And I took out its batteries in the middle of the night because I just couldn't handle the stress. 9 years old, I was not prepared to be a
father. Erin, what do you love about fantasy and what got you into loving fantasy?
I love how fantasy can really transport you into a completely different universe and still feel so grounded in the familiar and so grounded in the human experience and so be so relatable and resonate so deeply with people and also be in a completely different reality. I love that translating of the human experience can go anywhere and do anything, and we can still really reach people and feel really deeply. And what got me started, I also loved Greek mythology. I feel like every kid goes through that phase of like Greek mythology and Egyptian gods and all these things. But what really hooked me was the Death Gate cycle by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. That I started reading when I was in the real prime spot. I was probably like 13, 14. I started reading them, and it really got me in there. So that's what got me. And speaking of the Iliad, the Odyssey also is one of my favorite fantasy works, and I do collect translations of it.
Ooh, what's your favorite?
My favorite is probably Richmond Lattimore. Lattimore's the best. That's just my opinion.
I mean, I'm gonna argue Fagles, but that's okay.
You know what? We can take this out of the room later.
And poor Alexander Pope's just sitting back there like, no one can read me anymore.
Let him sit. He's done.
That's what this is all about, just mixing it up.
Yeah, that's really
they went beyond my knowledge by way beyond my knowledge. I was like, who? What? Pope is mad about what?
We just got the Wikipedia pages up, man. We're making it.
Victor's like, the Ewoks? What? And Naomi, and of course, for all your answers tonight, you could draw them if necessary. What do you most love about fantasy, and what got you into it?
I feel that I like fantasy because of a deep desire for total power over the universe. And also why I'm a novelist, right? It lets you totally control the terms of the debate. I feel like that's where I got started was actually fairy tales. My mother would read me fairy tales and sing me lullabies. My favorite lullaby as a child was a Polish lullaby called Bajki Cudowne, which means wonderful stories, but wondrous stories.
How's it go?
So I literally made my mother sing that to me, I think every night for at least 4 years running. So I also was a big fan of Disney's Peter Pan. I made my mother make up stories for me about how Captain Hook didn't get eaten by the crocodile at the end, and instead he and the pirates ended up shipwrecked somewhere and reformed. And so that's how I started. And I feel like that's how everybody starts, right?
Yeah. I love that it started so young and started with fairy tales from your mom. That's great.
Yeah. And I just sort of never quite accepted the fact that wasn't real, right?
Right.
I mean,
and I also like that you said what none of us else would say, which is it's all about having control over everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to premiere something right now, which I'm very excited about. which is the trailer for our show that we all made. So once again,
this is the first time any of us have seen this, right? Yeah.
Except for me, I've seen it like 2,000 times.
I might be 3 hours behind you guys, but I'm starting early.
Yeah, me and Victor have looked at nothing but this for the last 3 months. So yeah, we have this committed to memory. But yeah, no, we're thanks again. I'm so excited that we were able to get Naomi and Pierce to be part of our cast, which also includes a few other authors who couldn't be here tonight but are in the show. Jim Butcher was part of the Great Fantasy Debate. The great Marie Lu and Tochi Onyebuchi are all our authors. And then they are also teamed up with a bunch of great comedians, Sean Donnelly, Amina Amani, Sarah Smallwood Parsons, and Jay Jordan. And yeah, it's a super, super fun show. And we are going to show the trailer for it right now, and then we'll be back to continue this panel. So John, if you want to take over in the background and show us the trailer, The Great Fantasy Debate.
People should not own dragons.
There have been 4 movies telling us how to train these things, and we still don't know how.
The Great Fantasy Debate. Finally, answers to the biggest questions in fantasy.
Empire? You have working toilets. Or rebellion? No dress code. It's casual Friday every day. Wow. Wow.
Authors.
To the left is the Misty Mountains.
Comedians.
You're out of toilet paper.
Sandworms.
So I can't have my sandworm friends over now? I don't want to be that person.
Let's meet our debaters.
The best fantasy vacation is Discworld. Have you ever heard of Rimfall?
Here.
Let's discuss the acromantulas.
Everyone at Robb Stark's wedding was brutally killed.
What are the odds of that happening twice?
The Great Fantasy Debate.
What's his name?
Dumbledore.
Albus Dumbledore.
Yeah, there it is. All right, so Pierce and Naomi, did we do you justice? Do you feel okay?
About... I'm gonna have to wait to see the finished product. I'm sure she's great.
Yeah, very excited. Is everyone?
The answer is Empire, though. You want to work for the Empire.
Well,
okay. You want to work for the rebels.
All right, I'm gonna start with that, Pierce. So, as part of the show, on one episode, you argued for it would be better for people to work for the Empire than the Rebellion, and you argued that very confidently, no doubt at all. Have you done any introspection to yourself since about why that came so easily to you?
You know, you say it comes so easily, but it's not been that many years since 1977. And on that day, 1.5 million workers of the Empire perished when that Skywalker Starkiller guy fired that torpedo down. And let me tell you, their families still remember. You might make light of it. You might think, hey, you know, the Rebel Alliance all hunky-dory and stuff. But I tell you, there's a human cost to freedom. So, Empire all the way.
Wow. It never lets up. He is true Empire. Stands for dark.
I tell you what.
Too convincing.
Darth Vader is way ahead of the curve. The guy's got a built-in respirator. I'm sorry, too soon.
He's always practiced social distancing, Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Just chokes you from across the room. It's great.
Yeah.
So Naomi, thank you, of course, for being in the show. Well, I want to ask everyone, what was your favorite part of being part of the Great Fantasy Debate? You know, we shot this back in January, so before anyone thinks we just shot it last week, this was a few months back, and it's coming out on May 5th. So I guess we'll start with Victor, our director, editor, exec producer. Why was this the greatest working experience of your life? That's our official question here.
Well, I mean, first of all, I'd just like to confirm that, yes, indeed, it was the greatest working experience of my life. and I just want to say, I think what I really liked most about it was that it's one of those projects that was very close to the initial idea that you came and presented to me. And so, like, it was just as much fun as it seemed like when we were sitting around a table with papers and there was nothing. And it was still that much fun by the time we were actually doing it. That's what I really liked about it.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't totally change it to being a sports argument show at the last minute.
No, yeah, it was just a really good time, and it stuck to the vision of what it was. And when everybody came in, they just added something else on top of it that was just more fun. Like and me as a director, when you were like, "Oh, we're gonna have the authors in there," I was like, ugh. How good are authors on the fly on camera? But everyone was great.
Yeah.
And so that was a plus. Like, everyone was just fantastic. We had Erin, super funny. I love that Erin is great at quipping because I'm a big quipper. She quips back. And so that made me super happy. Just had a great time.
Yeah. Well, I think as a writer or a head writer, you got to quip. If you can't quip, yeah.
Yeah,
it's part of the job. You gotta be quippy.
So Erin, of course, like with Victor, I mean, me and Victor have known each other for years and years in comedy, and obviously me and you, Erin, have been friends for way too long, and I was really excited that I got to work with you on this. So what was some of your fondest memories from the Great Fantasy Debate?
You know, this show was really special because it's something where every single person involved in it on every single level was super passionate about what we were making. Everybody that I spoke to about it was like, oh my gosh, so you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to talk about this, you got to talk about this. It's just something that we really tapped into, something that people are just love so much. And that was true. That feeling was there every step of the process. From the second that we walked into the writer's room to sit down to say, okay, how are we even going to structure the show? What segments would we have? How would we really do this? So who would we get involved? What topics should we talk about? Some of the topics were generated in the writer's room, and some of the topics, the authors were like, well, this is something that we got to talk about. And just the passion behind it made it so much fun throughout the entire process. Usually when you're writing a show, when you get towards the end, you're just like, okay, we have 2 more weeks left. And then I have my life back. Because it can get really intense and there's a lot of time commitment to it. But with this show, it just rolled really smoothly because people were just in love with it from the start. And it really, it was really great.
I'm glad to hear that at no point did you want your life back. You were like,
I still don't want it.
Yeah. Well, you've got to have it. I can't take your.
Really went to an extreme.
Yeah. So Pierce, as Victor said, this was a show in which authors were up there performing, and I always knew it was going to be great because the authors who were on this. Well, unfortunately, you didn't have the faith in me that I had in you.
Lack of faith in you is lack of faith in me.
Well, all of the authors on the show were people that I've had the pleasure of working with before at Penguin Random House, so I knew you could bring it.
Well, that's one of the good things about Penguin Random House is we actually hung out like probably 10 times.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, right, Naomi.
Yeah,
like, we've all done
we've all done the same 23 bad panels together.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Naomi, how many times have we not even been able to parse what the panel's about?
Yeah, no. Well, I think that's right. We've always rolled into the panel. We're like, all right, this is the panel that we're doing now.
Yeah. Well, that's why it was so nice to actually have some good script to follow by Erin and those guys. Like, it's fine, like, because all you do is like extrapolate between like the bench, the bullet points that they've laid out in terms of, it makes it easy. I mean, if every panel was that with Naomi, we'd be fine.
Yeah, no, Erin, why don't you script all our panels for us?
Yeah, Erin, if you still don't like yourself or want your life back.
Well, all of those panels that you thought were terrible, I was just in the back of the room saying there are a couple of stars that are going to be part of our show. So, you talk about these panels and how authors are always hanging out together on the road. You're doing these panels together. Do you find yourself having, especially since you're often teamed up with other sci-fi and fantasy authors, do you find yourself having these types of little arguments and playful discussions when you're together? So Pierce, it looks like you have.
I mean, there's this game, I think Skybound does it. It's called Super Fight. Naomi, were you on one of those panels with me?
Oh, yeah.
Super Fight is essentially where...
Yeah,
I think maybe Scott Sigler rocked that one, but basically, like, there's always panels where it's somewhat ridiculous. You're given like concept of Darth Vader with a garden hose. Could he beat a Tyrannosaurus Rex with a rocket launcher? And you have to defend your side, or could Arnold Schwarzenegger T-83 be able to defeat RoboCop? And then unfortunately the conversation just moves to the bar of the hotel and becomes increasingly drunk, and then all the other authors come in, and it's like 16 people with a lot of opinions. So, yeah, you get the picture.
So basically, this is you've been prepping for this show your whole life.
I've been training my whole life.
Yes. Let's see. Was there any other aspects just of the production that you particularly enjoyed? Was it
actually? You know what? I'm sorry. I'm totally going to jump in and say, that I actually just loved Victor, like watching Victor on set. Because I've never actually been on a professional production before, and seeing a director, like I sort of had this vague idea of what does a director do, like choose his shots. No, it was literally like creating life on the set in all of us. And like there were moments when you're on there and it's going on and you're trying to say your lines with some sort of semblance of actually being a human being instead of a very strange robot. And Victor was always just sort of like, all right, and now energy, like literally bringing buckets of energy and pouring them into the room. And I was just like, wow, that's what directors do. Okay. I don't know if it's all directors or if you're just amazing, Victor, but it was amazing.
Naomi, it's not all directors. Victor is amazing.
Okay. Well, Victor is amazing. So.
If I could just be given a chance to respond.
Can't let these.
Yes, I'm amazing.
What I'd like to say about Victor is
now, can you rebut the Victor is amazing argument? Yours.
Me? Well, it all depends whether or not he edited out my sweat stains in post.
I remember Pierce and I had a problem because I used to love to sneak up on him at craft services and force feed him Kit Kats. That was just like a thing I thought was hilarious, and he was like not with it.
Well, the problem is, if you put a Kit Kat in front of me, I'm going to eat it, Victor.
I know. It was like, it would just like jump out of my hand straight into
Yeah, and I'm very self-conscious about my jawline on TV, and that wasn't doing much for it. My 16 Kit Kats, it just wasn't me anymore.
Well, I like that. It's two sides of the debate. Victor is amazing, but on the other side, Victor force feeds his cast.
I win.
And now I have diabetes, Victor.
I think that's just more support for my position.
Yeah.
Victor is amazing versus Victor always has Kit Kats to give you for free.
Which
those are very similar arguments.
The Venn diagram is very, very overlapping on that one.
Yeah. All right, guys.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
So moving on from the Victor is amazing segment, I have a couple of games that we're going to play here before we start taking questions that are being gathered from our fans. So, actually, the first game that I want to play here tonight is, does everyone know who actor Christopher Lee is? The great Christopher Lee.
Yeah. The SAS officer that knew how to kill people.
Yeah. So, of course, Christopher Lee is a great actor. He's famous for playing on-screen villains. He played Count Dooku in the Star Wars films. He played Saruman in the...
I'm sorry, wait, you're leading with Count Dooku instead of Saruman? Dracula? No!
Well, I'm saving the biggest one for last because it's Saruman. And then, of course, the greatest, those are both big fantasy properties. He also played a James Bond nemesis, Francisco Scaramanga, in The Man with the Golden Gun. So what I'm going to do here is I have gathered a bunch of Christopher Lee character quotes from those three properties, and I'm going to read them one by one, and you are all going to guess, is it Saruman, Dooku, or Scaramanga? So that is what we're going to do here. So just bring up. So this game is called Which Lee Was It? You have to tell me, is it like a speed thing or do we go around? So I guess we're gonna do buzzer.
To participate in any speed competition with Piers.
I know, but you're still bitter? You're still bitter?
Before you ask the question.
Hey man, I had a conversion rate that worked, you know? I did like one wrong, but like 4 right, so it worked.
So I'll read the quote and then I'll say which Lee was it, and then someone could buzz in and say, again, either Saruman, Dooku, or Scaramanga. All right, so we'll start off with maybe a couple of easy ones. So first one is this quote. It is obvious that this contest cannot be decided by our knowledge of the Force, but by our skills with a lightsaber. All right, I'll go with Erin on that one.
Did someone have an actual buzzer?
What? Nobody else brought a bell?
Hold on, I'll be right back and get one.
All right, well, Pierce runs to the store to buy a buzzer.
My guess is Count Dooku, and I can't believe I don't have a service bell at my...
Now I'm like desperately looking around my room, like what can I use as a buzzer?
I just thought we were all bringing bells. I'm sorry.
All right, so next of the which Lee was it? Next quote is, do you know how the orcs first came into being? They were elves once taken by dark powers, tortured and mutilated. Which Lee was it? Naomi. It is. That's correct.
Oh, wow. I got it right. Yay.
Wait, are you just ignoring my bell because it's a bell?
No, Victor, I got a bell too. It's beautiful.
But
has bells.
Yeah, I trained my dog to respond to this.
So your dog's going to like just show up now?
I did not think about that.
Oh, I just like bells.
All right. Next quote.
It's a treat bell.
Next quote. Everyone, get ready. This is a difficult one.
Wait, so we can't buzz ahead of time. We have to wait till the end.
You have to wait until I say which Lee was it.
Okay.
Got it. Okay, I'm sorry. That was my fault then.
Okay, so the quote is, "How do you like my island, Mr. Bond?" Pierce.
Wait.
Yeah, obviously Bond, triple nipple, Dr. No.
Well, what's the character?
Said which Lee was it?
Scaramanga. Scaramanga.
All right, I'll give that one to Pierce.
Yeah.
All right, now we're gonna start getting a little more difficult. This is, you might not be able to see. Okay.
I'm just gonna
next one is.
I'd love if that was Dooku somehow.
You never said which Lee was it that time.
Oh, all right. Well, I take a minus point myself on that one. Okay, so again, Christopher
They're not
Lee,
distinguishable
3
at all.
great fantasy properties. Here we go. That was brave, boy, but foolish. I would have thought you'd have learned your lesson by now. Which Lee was it? All right, that is Pierce again.
Dooku.
That is Dooku to Anakin. All right, start flowing through these. Next one. I gave you the chance of aiding me willingly, but you have elected a way of pain. Which Lee was it? Victor.
I don't know.
Ah!
Just say one. 33% chance.
I just wanted to see if the bell was working because I thought maybe the latency was
Gandalf,
off.
man, before the wizard duel.
Yes, you're right. It's Gandalf. I'm sorry.
That is Saruman. All right. So, next quote, Christopher Lee fantasy property. Let us see what Knick-Knack has for us. Ah, mushrooms. Pierce.
Scaramanga.
It is Scaramanga.
Knick-Knack's that creepy little weird guy.
Yeah.
He's awesome, by the way.
Hervé Villachez.
Yeah.
All right. So next quote. So this one might get you guys. So you have chosen death. Naomi.
Saruman.
That is Saruman. Yes.
To Gandalf, right? Yeah.
Next quote. We must persuade the Commerce Guild and Corporate Alliance to sign the treaty. Which Lee was it? Here's,
Dooku.
It is Dooku. I feel like
Naomi, flashbacks.
I feel like in the Star Wars universe, treaty is a bigger giveaway than lightsaber.
Yeah.
Like, if you see treaty,
it's a quote about a trade embargo. I know who it is.
Oh, God. I think they familiarized the whole generation with trade embargoes.
All right. I've got a few more here. You'll be the death of me yet, Knick-Knack. I'll go with Victor on that one.
Scaramucci.
It's Scaramucci.
Will the judges accept Scaramucci?
Christopher Lee also played Scaramucci.
I think that's an 18th century novel about a Scaramouche. 18th century novel about a rapier master. By Sabatini. Great book.
All right, so I've got 2 more here. So the next one is, I have good news for you, my lord. War has begun. Which Lee was it?
Ding. That's Dooku.
That is Dooku. 2 Darth Sidious. All right, and last one.
Will you do the fun?
Which fantasy property is this from? Played by Christopher Lee. Knick-Knack, Tabasco. Which Lee was it? Give that to Erin. Who was it?
Scaramucci.
None of them are Scaramucci.
Scaramouche, will you do the fandango?
And that is how you play Which Lee Was It? Christopher Lee, one of the great actors in fantasy history. All right, everyone.
Do you know that on the set of Bond, he was told by the stunt coordinator how he was supposed to kill someone, and then Christopher Lee just looked at him and said, "This is how you would do it." And the guy says, "Well, how would you know?" He says, "I've done it." He was in the SAS. He did like 4 missions behind Nazi lines. He's like insane. He has this insane war record of like. Never mind. I like Chris.
I don't.
I'm like killing people. It was so cool.
Hey, that was a good war.
I don't have any Christopher Lee quotes from On the Battlefield of World War II, so we'll save that for the next edition of Which Lee Was It? All right, so next up, it's time for our drawing game, Mythical Scribbles, everyone.
Oh, no. All
right.
I didn't bring this because I actually have drawing skill. I just wanted to write words.
So before we start this, we've got a prompt from one of our authors who could not be here tonight, Marie Lou, but who was one of the co-stars of our show. So she has a little drawing prompt for everyone. I'm going to show this video right now. So let's see if I could get this to work. All right, everyone, here we go.
Pat, I can't hear it.
Oh,
I also
all right.
can't hear it.
Okay, hold on. It's gone crazy now. I'm going to try this again. I think I know what I did wrong. Yes, I do know what I did wrong. Hold on. Here we go from the top. There we go.
All right, guys. I'm going to make you draw a chimera, which, according to Webster's Dictionary, is an imaginary monster compounded of incongruous parts, potentially having a lion's head, a goat's body, and a serpent's tail.
Do we go?
All right. And draw. And I'll give you like 30 seconds, and I'll also draw. So here we go.
Okay.
Everyone is drawing a chimera. Mine is definitely going to win because I am the best artist of anyone here, for sure. Everyone get ready to have your dreams haunted forever.
All right.
All right, everyone ready?
Okay.
I'm sorry, my tools are excessively good for my abilities.
Oh, mine looks horrible.
Trying to give me pressure.
Mine looks great.
I don't know what to do with pressure levels.
So let's start. It seems like Erin is ready. Erin, could you show us your chimera? Oh my God. How did you draw all that in such a short amount of time?
That's amazing.
I had it in my head. This is what I've been dreaming about since childhood.
You have been drawing a little bit of that every day your entire life.
Oh, no.
All right. Victor, are you ready to show us your chimera?
I am ready.
Cool.
That's great.
That's great. That's so great.
He looks so friendly.
Yeah.
He's a very friendly chimera.
Oh, the chimera's mane is just beautiful. Just so
luxuriant.
well conditioned. I love it. Pierce, you look like you've got a chimera you want to show the entire world.
Proud. You look proud and ready to display your work.
Well, I had a seizure while I did it, so.
Okay. Oh, that looks great. Is he giving a thumbs up?
He looks like he's giving a thumbs up, yeah.
Yeah, he's a bro chimera. He's a bro mira.
You can breathe fire, bro?
Bro, I can breathe fire and do gravity bong hits.
Naomi's still drawing.
I'll show mine because there's no way she's gonna be able to top this.
She better pull up the Mona Lisa.
Let Naomi go first. Pat, you're the grand finale.
Over with.
That looks great. Oh, Chimera at rest. I love it.
He's got a lion's head as a paw.
Cool.
It's got the heads of all three creatures. The tail is a head.
I'm seeing some Majesty's dragons in that Chimera. I'm just saying. I'm seeing some shades of dragons.
Very dragon heavy. That's
very
true.
dragony, which we should expect.
So here you go. Now, Pierce and Naomi, I'm going to show you a creature that I expect will be the central character of each of your next novels.
Okay.
So here we go.
I'll put it in the book.
Wait, do we have to draw this or something?
No. This is I drew this.
Okay.
Here we go.
Oh, so this is gonna haunt my dream. Okay.
Yes,
Pat's an incredible nightmare artist.
Here we go.
Oh God, what is it? Kill with fire. Kill with fire.
Is that like a pink chicken?
I'm not even gonna lie. If that came at me in anamorphic form, I'd be like terrified.
It's like,
Scariest one.
That
it's like a
creature
peanut
existed.
chicken.
Get ready to scream.
This is
All
for
right.
the kids.
Someone in the comment, Kate Lukowski just said, "What is that?" And I agree, Kate. What is that? All right. So I have some more here that we're all going to draw. So I have the advantage because now I know the rest of these. So mine are going to be the best, of course, but
No.
you could all try to keep up. So the next thing we're all going to draw is a mermaid. Everyone, grab your pad and draw a beautiful mermaid. Your inspiration can be the Little Mermaid, of course, or other mermaids. Splash is a famous mermaid. The character from Splash, I don't think her name was Splash. Little water. All right. And everyone at home could also draw, of course. Matt Wu just said, "What is Pat drawing?" And Matt Wu, you're going to find out in a couple of seconds. And you're all going to love it. I will sign these and send personalized prints to everyone in the audience afterwards, because I'm sure people want to frame this. All right. So I am going to call time right now.
Oh no.
Erin, pencils down. We're going to you first. Please show us your mermaid. Oh, cool.
I did her fish side up.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right.
So that is what Tom Hanks is going to fall in love with in the sequel.
Oh yeah, that's her true form.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, the thing I love about it is the fish is very happy and proud.
He's loving it.
Yeah, cool. And got the swim trunks on. And awesome. Victor, can you show us your
Here we go.
mermaid?
There's my mermaid.
Oh. Cool. So a nice, cool smoking mermaid.
She's got some stories that'll turn your gills inside out.
She's got a cough to like get rid of the smoke and then get rid of the water that's in her lungs. There's a lot in those lungs right now.
You think your life is easy? You don't have to live with the starfish.
So Pierce, let's see.
What?
The Pierce Brown mermaid of our dreams.
Oh,
very cool.
I like it.
Nice.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
I decided to go with some empowerment because she
I love
took Poseidon's trident. And
I love
she's
the
now
trident.
The enforcer of the damn deep.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So in that mermaid's world, Poseidon is dead.
No.
No.
He's just not as good as his job as the mermaid is.
Okay. Awesome.
As we've been seeing.
In my world, Poseidon is dead from secondhand smoke.
And Naomi, can we see your lovely mermaid?
My great Achievement.
Cool. Oh. Is that shark in the background going to be trouble soon? For that mermaid?
Ride.
You know, you have to bring your own interpretation. The author is that.
No, because she's got a friend. A friend indeed.
Well, and they all have a friend in Pat Stango's Mermaid. Who is this? That is my mermaid.
She looks so much like a chimera with the stick fingers.
In my fantasy world, everything has claw hands, including mermaids.
Pat, are you one of those people who just like can't draw a clock? You know, because it's like you disassociate with like time, and so you can't draw like you can look at a clock, but you can't draw it.
They're all melting.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something really disturbing about your pictures. You know?
Yeah, they are.
It's kind of like you know, you go into a guy's house and you see really bad taxidermy. That's your pictures.
They have bad taxidermy, and then I draw
bad
those.
Taxidermy as opposed to just taxidermy.
Normal taxidermy. Well, some of it looks good. You've been in natural wildlife museums that look great.
Pat Hannah Williamson said Pat wants to give us all nightmares.
Yeah.
I also wanted to just say, look, I figured out how to do different colors.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
One color. Fear my power.
All right, one last thing we're going to draw here. And Naomi, this is in honor of you. We are, of course, going to end by drawing a dragon.
Okay.
Everyone.
I'm prepared.
Here we go. Okay. So the dragon. Yeah, this one is maybe my masterpiece, I think. Everyone. Yeah, that's great. Head. Okay. Of course, claw hands.
Wouldn't be complete without claw hands.
Well, the people in the chat would get upset if I drew something that didn't have claw hands.
It's your brand.
Yeah, it's all. I mean, nowadays everything is about developing your brand, and mine is claw hands.
Mine sucks.
Yeah, this is great. I'm really excited about this one. Everyone.
Mine ended up looking like a hippopotamus. Do I have time to fix it?
Well, we could go to Pierce.
No, I just took the wrong angle.
I'm just drawing lots of dragons. I'm just drawing an entire army of dragons.
All right, so Victor, I'm calling time on you.
Okay.
Can you show us your dragon?
Yes. Here we go.
Whoa, that's awesome.
Legit scary dragon.
Yeah.
Excellent.
This is a dragon. Dragons don't mess around.
Mine kind of messes around.
Yours likes to party?
Mine likes
this guy
party.
This guy does not mess around. This guy's like, I've got goat horns and a big black mouth.
That's awesome.
Yours has a maw.
Big black maw.
Yeah.
So, Erin, let's see your counterpart to Victor's scary dragon.
Here he is.
Oh!
He's on his little horde.
Yeah.
Greatly inspired by Denver the Last Dinosaur in his design.
Hey guys, let's mess around.
He doesn't mess around. Yeah, he's a little Eustace. Looks a little bit like Eustace when he was a dragon in Narnia.
Here's what I'll say about your dragon. Yours, I think, is actually scarier because he looks very happy, but he's sitting on that pile of gold. And I think he came across it in like insider trading and just like all different scams. Like he's a pyramid scheme dragon.
Oh yeah, he sold stock short. He's in the mortgage crisis. Yeah, he's he messes around.
Yeah, that's Pierce. Let's see. What do you have for us? Sure.
Yeah, I'll share it. I meant to do a triple tail dragon, and it didn't work out. Instead.
What's he saying?
It's backward, isn't it? Not hippo, I dragon, rar.
No, it's not backwards.
We just weren't really sure what was happening.
I write like an epileptic chihuahua.
So Naomi?
All right.
Of course, Naomi.
Oh, my glorious
mother of dragons.
This is the only way I can draw a dragon. I've had to learn it because I draw it when I sign books. So you can see, look, there's a person on the dragon.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's a side view perspective of the dragon.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
It's like a watercolor abstract.
Right.
So here's Naomi. I'm going to suggest this. Next time you're signing and your fans are asking you, can you please draw us a dragon when you sign this? I suggest you draw this.
Well, at least he's got his pants on.
He's got his robe.
I think it's your best work, man. That's wonderful.
That's what I mean.
Very where the wild things are.
It's very like Picasso, because it looks like his head. It looks like his face is on the top part of his head.
Yeah.
The mouth looks like its own.
It's very Guernica.
He's been through a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. This dragon's been through a lot. This is not him at the best point in his life.
It's 7 drinks
He's
deep.
at his low point.
Yeah.
He's done some mescaline. I get it.
He just lost custody of his eggs. He's in a weird place.
Yeah, his hoard isn't what it used to be. You know, there's been an inflation on gold. It's a bummer.
But every day he says, I'm going to get back up there. I'm going to, someday, I'll be back on top.
Well, I think, to be honest, I think that one of the people in the comments, Bettina has it right. Does he hang out with the smoking mermaid? And I'm thinking those guys have a mod squad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They prowl the fantastical realms, smoking and doing drugs.
They don't hang out together because he wears pants, and that's the one thing she can't tolerate. She's a mermaid. Come on. She's like, legs, what is that all about? You have to accentuate those?
Yeah, that conservative culture, she doesn't like that.
All right, everyone. So one last thing before we get to our questions is I thought we would just have a couple of very quick little mini either-or debates. Of course, the Great Fantasy Debate, our show, which is going to be on Facebook Watch starting every week starting May 5th, is a debate show about fantasy topics. So I have a few either-ors that I'd like to pose to everyone here. So, first debate topic, who would you rather be quarantined with? Joffrey from Game of Thrones or Darth Vader? Anyone could jump in?
Megatron.
I'd say Vader for sure. Especially in times that, like you were saying, he can choke someone from across the room. He can also pass you the peanut butter from across the room without getting close. He's always wearing a mask and gloves. So I feel like he is the most hygienic.
Yes.
Between the two.
Yeah. No, it's true. Darth Vader is such a perfect quarantine person. Darth Vader is the person of this moment. Perhaps.
In the comments, everyone's on Vader. Everyone's saying Vader.
I will say this, that, the thing is that Joffrey is a complete pathetic wimp. So, if you want to be in charge of quarantine, I feel like,
easy to strong arm.
Yeah. Vader's going to be the one, Vader's not really,
Vader's not going to want to watch your pick on Netflix.
Yeah,
Vader's has a very clear idea.
Yeah, he'd switch the channel with that move in his hand, It'd be annoying.
I'd have
so
to
much.
say,
all that home shopping network.
Wrong, it's broken.
Yeah.
I'd have to say Joffrey, as long as he had no authority. That's the thing. As long as he has no authority, Joffrey.
Well, it's just you and him, right? It's quarantine, right? He has no soldiers, so what has he got? Right? You just slap him once. I don't know.
And I personally have been, looking for new activities to do in quarantine. So slapping the shit out of Joffrey would be great.
Right. See, it's a win-win situation.
Every day I know what I'm doing at 4:00.
Yeah.
I love how we both, everyone wants to hang out with either of them all the time. Okay, so next question. Who is a better sidekick, Samwise from Lord of the Rings or Ron Weasley from
Samwise?
Samwise.
Samwise is a martyr. Are you kidding
me?
That guy carried the whole expedition on his back and had to deal with a shitty friend who was hangry the entire
time. So no one is going to stand for Ron Weasley here.
He's too angsty. It's always, he's kind of like sad sack.
Ron just makes you feel good about yourself,
Yeah.
That's true.
Ron literally left. I agree with that. Yeah, I was just going to say, he checked out. He took off.
Right.
Because he was jealous. I'm sorry. Look, if you're going to put up, she's not the sidekick, but if you put up Hermione versus Samwise, then all right. That's a fight.
That's a tough one. I don't know about that one.
That one's tough because
Sam's got mad stamina and constitution, but Hermione's got the intelligence and wisdom scores.
Sam can cook.
Yeah.
Yeah. And garden.
Bring an entire house along with her. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but if Sam got that bag, he could do that too.
Yeah. Well, obviously, if you have both of them, you just win. So.
All right. So, a couple more things here. Now, this is not an either or. This is an open-ended one. Which fantasy character ever would be the best suited to deal with self-isolation?
I was gonna say Smaug. I was gonna say Smaug would be it because he loves that. Alone in a mountain.
Yeah.
I'd say Gollum because he has multiple personalities. So
keep himself company.
But Gollum, he only as long as he had the ring for company, right? As soon as the ring was gone, he had to, he came out.
Yeah, then he just schizophrenic, and that's not great.
Yeah.
All right. So I have one more.
I go Smaug. I agree with Smaug. That's a great one.
Smaug.
Thank you.
Smaug wants to be alone. Like, go away.
So I have one more question.
No, not Luke. Duh.
That was a bad decision.
Opposite.
Bad writing decision.
Thank you. Agreed, Naomi.
So I am just going to put a little shout out to behind the scenes Richard and John. If you could gather those questions for me from the audience, send me a text, and I'm going to ask our panel some of the fan questions right after this next little debate here. So Richard and John, if you could send me those. So last question I have for everyone here. The Smurfs. Are they a fantasy property or are they horror? My question is, the Smurfs, what's the deal with that? That's what I got.
I think that's beyond horror. That's not horror. That can't be horror.
We're talking about the Smurfs, right? The blue people? Yeah, I think Donnie Darko explored that pretty well, that they're just simply a metaphor for socialist government. And if anything, we should be wary about them.
Great. So the Smurfs are horror. We're all agreed on that.
Perhaps.
I'd say fantasy. I'm going to go the other way. Fantasy. They live in mushroom houses.
They're Belgian.
They're blue.
No, Belgian. We're not going to get too scared.
Azrael is a cat who can understand English for some reason.
All right. So here we go. So I have...
Wait, Azrael can understand English. I guess it can't. Wow. Interesting. Sorry. New levels. The Smurfs are an onion.
So I have some questions. Thank you, everyone watching, of course, here in the Zoom or on Facebook Live on the Penguin Random House Facebook channel. So I have some questions for the panel. Here we go. So this one
Shout out to Drea and Ryan, by the way. Just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, Victor, do you want to give some shout outs to any other people who are involved in the show? Of course, our hosts, Drea Bolt and Abbi Crutchfield, all of our comedians. Anyone else on production that you want to give a little shout out to?
Big shout out to Drea, Ryan, Rebecca, and of course, Will, who did the, was our DP. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
And to Clayton Gumbert, who is another writer for the show.
Yeah, we had an awesome staff. The people in front of the camera and behind the camera.
All the comedians who actually backed us up and made us seem very funny while we were, well, all of us were like, how do we say this line? And what is the meaning behind this line? And they were like, okay, no, just make it funny.
Yeah, I loved, and also, of course, want to thank everyone at Facebook who worked on this with us. They are very excited about the show. May 5th, if I haven't mentioned that, on Facebook Live. Okay, so here is a question from Esther. She asks, so this is for Pierce and Naomi, what is your favorite technique to use when building plot and characters? So I guess a form.
Can't wait for Naomi to tackle this one.
I'm useless. I'm sorry. I sit down and I start writing, and plot tells you what a character does, tells you who they are, and then they have to react to whatever happened as a consequence. and that's just how you do it. You just, I don't know. I mean, that's like, well, explain how the brain works. Gremlins.
So it just pours out of you.
I have no like specific technique. I can make up some techniques. I can make up some, but
you don't have to make up techniques on the spot.
Yeah.
And Pierce, anything?
I mean, a lot of it's the way Naomi said, it just kind of happens. Mostly it's throwing yourself at the wall, but there are some like things to keep in mind, I think. For instance, I think any good book has kind of like, you look at the traditional plot arc of like, say, a screenplay or a novel, then you have an inciting incident, and then it started slowly going upward towards the climax, and then you have the denouement. So that is kind of the structure. So if you think of it in terms of the overall arc, I think that it should be internal. So what the character is going through emotionally. I think it should be external, what the character is confronting, and then it should be thematic. So I create 3 lines for those 3 points, and I have them intersect at big climaxes, so that the theme is being reinforced by the character's inner conversation or inner struggle. At the same time, you have the external forces, because we've all seen big fights, right? Like, easy fodder, Batman versus Superman or something like that, where the last whole third of it is just a big old action scene, right? But none of it matters because there's no emotions at stake. So instead, I like, when I know that I have to have the climax of the action scene, I plan to have all the other resolutions with the theme of the main character also happen as as part of the scene, or have to almost be like catharsis for that. The inner things interbrewing, and I think the intersection creates like a pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, right. You totally, yes. You want your emotional plot and your sort of action plot in a way to climax at the same moment.
Yeah.
Right? Not even at the same moment, but in harmonious ways.
Reinforce each other. Yeah.
But it's not. I guess for me, the problem is that if I plan out what's going to happen, I don't need to write it down.
It also feels disingenuous, probably a little bit. Like when I do outlines and do a bop 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 bop, it feels disingenuous because it's doing what the characters want. I want the characters to do instead of doing what the characters do. Do you have that at all, or is that just me?
I mean, I don't, because I always am in every scene. I'm always privileging what the characters would do, and that's always the.
Do you outline at all, out of curiosity?
When I do, it's because certain people at Penguin Random House.
Yeah, I got that right now.
Get the next check in my contract.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm always very bitter about it. And then I take the outline and I stuff it in a folder and I forget about it.
Yeah.
But occasionally, if I get stuck in the book, I'm like, what should happen next? Oh, I'll go look at the outline and see what I thought.
But it often tells you what not to do as opposed to what to do. In my experience with outlines, it's like, oh, that didn't work.
Yeah.
So someone asked, and I promise this was not me planting it in here, but someone asked everyone, what was your favorite single moment from the show? So does anyone have one specific thing that they remember loving? Kit Kats.
It was the 9,000 takes that Sean had on that one bit, and then when he finally got it, and everybody was so happy.
Yes.
That was great.
So you're referring to the great comedian Sean Donnelly, who took a few takes, maybe about a half hour or so to get something, but when he got it, it was the biggest celebration I've ever been a part of.
He kept
it was amazing.
the line over and over again, and then when he got it right, the whole studio erupted in applause, and he did a victory lap, giving high fives to everybody in the studio, shouting, "I'm the best! I'm the best!" That was pretty great.
Naomi, any other great moment that you enjoyed?
That one was pretty great. But I mean, the interpretive dance ones. The interpretive dances were quite special.
Yes.
That was just a truly magical experience.
And it's funny you bring that up, because someone in our comment section, Bettina, just asked, is someone going to do an interpretive dance as an answer? Please do an interpretive dance answer. So tune in to our show, because there is a segment where we do interpretive dance. And just also to answer that question, we actually got one more message from author and cast member of the show, Marie Lou, who sent this in. This is her favorite moment on the show. So I'm just going to play this quick video for everyone from Marie Lou. And here we go.
Hi everyone, I'm Marie Lou, and I'm sorry I can't be on this live stream, but I can tell you what my favorite part of filming the Great Fantasy Debate was, and that was arguing in favor of having a sandworm as my roommate. When will I ever get to do that again?
Yeah,
it was
awesome. Big room.
So I think we are at the end of our panel. Thank you, all the people on Facebook Live who've been watching this and here in the Zoom. So the last thing I want to ask everyone is just what could we look forward to next? Of course, aside from the Great Fantasy Debate premiering, did I say May 5th on Facebook Watch? Aside from that, let's go around. Naomi, what are you either working on or want to point your fans towards? What is the next thing or the current thing?
I actually had it because I literally came here from a reading where I was reading. This is the fancy title page of A Deadly Education. This is my new trilogy.
I'm reading it right now.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
Awesome. Thank you. Yay. And yeah, it's set in a school of magic that likes to eat its students. And yeah, and it's hopefully going to be a lot of fun.
I like you take your eye rolling from like reading certain magical series and you're like, this is how it really be.
Well, you know, it's eye rolling. I do it with love.
With love. I get it. Yeah. But there's no time turner devices.
No time. No time turners.
That's very exciting. And Naomi, where else could fans find you, either on the web or on social media?
I've been doing live Q&As and live readings on Saturdays and Wednesdays from Deadly Education on my Instagram account, which is just Naomi Novik on Instagram. And yeah, and posting around probably an obnoxious amount to say, hey, I'm doing a Q&A, or hey, I'm doing a live reading on Instagram, because that's, you know, what we do now, because I'm in quarantine, and so I can't pretend to not have my email.
Right. So. This is it. We Zoom all the time now. This is life. On that note, Pierce, what are you either working on or your fans can look forward to, or what are you up to? What are you watching on TV? Just give us a little insight. Yeah. What's going on? You know,
I'm gardening a lot lately, and that's been really emotionally rewarding.
I'm trying to grow strawberry plants in my house.
How's that going?
Not so well.
No, not great. Why not? Did the birds eat it, or?
Well, there are like these little fruit flies on it, and I don't know how to make
them.
Oh
no! Yeah, that's unfortunate. Well, they have some like really natural ways of. Sorry, I'll text you. I'm sorry. Anyone brings like a gardening issue, I'm like, I've actually read about that. So yeah, what am I writing? I'm working on a couple different things right now. Primarily Red Rising Book 6, which is a continuation of Dark Age. And yeah, so basically planning that out. I've been doing tons of research lately, which has been, you know, the most fun, because I got all my books in before, you know, everything got a little funky. So I just have a stack of books, and I'm gardening and writing book 6, and I hope it's gonna be good.
Great.
So that's what I'm doing. Yeah. And
nice.
Oh, by the way, for all the comments things, there'll be news. Oh yeah, dish soap water in a spray bottle is good but Naomi, as long as you have like the right kind. Don't get any chemical dish soap though. Get like a, you know, lemon-based one. Obviously, sorry. So California.
Where could people find more of your gardening tips, Pierce?
Nowhere. Probably maybe my Instagram thing. No, but I'll probably be doing. I've been doing some. I did one a live reading. I'll probably do another Instagram live. I read the first book with Iliad, and so I'll probably do the second and third in a couple days, and probably do an AMA at the end of that. Oh yeah, I also got a couple of Venus flytraps that I've been really excited about, and I've been feeding them.
Cool.
Not even kidding.
Well, you better share some pictures on your Instagram, because you've set the expectation.
Yeah, I did, and then I got criticized for not feeding the Venus flytrap properly. You know, because everything you do these days. Technically. So what? I fed it ham. That one did die. And hey, I've learned, and I think emotionally the Venus flytrap's gotten over it. So,
you're all friends again. That's fine.
We're all friends again. Yeah. Well, I learned my lesson, but a bee did fly. A bee did fly into it yesterday. It was the most horrifying thing to watch because I love bees. And it flew into the Venus flytrap, and I saw it behind like this beautiful green bars closing, and I saw the desperation in the bee's 100 eyes, and I was like, I feel you, bro. But he also has to, respect the chain of life.
Yeah. That's what you're all about, Pierce, the chain of life.
The character had to die.
Erin, aside from the Great Fantasy Debate premiering May 5th on Facebook Watch, what else have you been, what can we look forward to from you? I think another show, perhaps, I've heard.
Besides the Great Fantasy Debate premiering on Facebook Watch on May 5th, I also was head writer for The Big Fib, which is a kids game show on Disney Plus, which is premiering on May 22nd. The Big Fib, our host is Yvette Nicole Brown. We've got Reese Darby as her sidekick. It is very fun and silly. It's legit bananas. It's very ridiculous. It's a very silly show, and I hope that people enjoy it. And also, I have a podcast, Ellie and the Wave, which is it's kind of a dystopian future, sci-fi-ish, but also the Wonder Years. And that is available wherever you get your podcasts. Ellie and the Wave, starring Natalie Morales from Parks and Rec, who's great.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I could attest, I was at a taping of The Big Fib, and it is totes bananas.
It's
Victor, and of
Hello.
course, now that you are finally done editing every frame of the Great Fantasy Debate, you have some free time. Anything else we could look forward to, or anything exciting that you're working on? Or
I am working on something that I really enjoy. I'm working on a documentary right now with the great Drea Bolt, and it is about how her mother had cancer, but then decided to delve into World of Warcraft during her recovery. And so it's just like a documentary about her journey into World of Warcraft as a 70-year-old woman.
That's awesome. And
yeah,
of course,
it's pretty dope.
Drea, again, one of the producer on the show, one of the co-hosts on the show, the Great Fantasy Debate, May 5th, Facebook Watch. And of course, so if you're watching this, I also suggest everyone follow the Penguin Random House Facebook page, because if you do that, you'll learn all about our authors. We're always posting great stuff about our authors, and the Great Fantasy Debate is going to be there every single week starting May 5th. So that's it. This was so much fun. I'm so thankful that you all joined, and I just want to say thanks again for just being part of the Great Fantasy Debate show. This was like a huge dream for me. I really loved making this, and I'm so excited that all of you and all the other people who were in here tonight were part of it. So thank you very much.
Pat, wait a second. I just remembered I forgot to mention my podcast. My co-host is going to be so upset with me.
Okay.
Can I just say it's called Six Unseemly Questions. It's a comedy game show podcast. It's fun. That's it.
I've heard it. It's great. And now your podcast co-host will not yell at you after this is over.
Thank you.
So that's very important. All right. Well, that is our show. Thanks again. Naomi Novik, Pierce Brown, Erin Chan, Victor Varnado, and of course, everybody. This is what you all are going out on. John, take us out. We're done. We done did it.